Hey guys, this is a collab discussion that I had with fellow Jujutsu Kaisen creator TheFakeWeeb, where we went over what our favorite fights in the series are. So let's get into it. Kari versus Kashimo. This has got to be one of the best fights in the series, right? I mean, if like top five, maybe even top three.
This is my second favorite fight of all time in Jujutsu Kaisen.
A lot of the time when characters fight, there's like an imbalance between them. Like one will be like kind of strong, and one will be, you know, a realistic level of power or whatever, or at least in the bigger fights. And that is another reason why I really like Kari versus Kashimo, because they're essentially even. I mean, not like perfectly even, like if you were to like rate their power levels by numbers or whatever, it wouldn't be, you know, exactly the same. But overall, their capabilities and how they match up, they're very evenly matched. And I know this is true, not just from my opinion, or I would say the consensus is this, because week to week covering this, and I know you did too, the community as a whole didn't really know who was going to win.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's not very common. Like usually we know what's going to happen. Like, I'm not all the time, but like 7 times out of 10, we know like, okay, it's eventually going to end with this character winning because they kind of have to. But with this one, that was kind of off the table because either character could have won, either character could have died quite easily. No one is really safe in this series, especially the non-main characters. Like, I could totally see Hikari dying, just like how Nanami or allegedly Nobara did. Like, I could really see that happening. He probably still isn't safe. But that's another reason why this is so fantastic. I mean, after the fact, you know, we're going to look at it and just see how cool it is. But reading it as it was airing had this real like sense of like intrigue because you just didn't know what was going to happen, and I think that just made it so much better. But just aside from just the fight itself, which is just so much fun, because the way that Hikari fights is unlike anyone else. I mean, yeah, he's like a brawler and you know, does crazy moves and punches and drop kicks and stuff, but when he activates Idle Death Gamble, which he uses so much in this fight, I think he uses it 3 or 4 times, every time it's so much fun. And yes, there is a learning curve to it for sure, because we're originally introduced to it in his fight previously with Charles, and you know, once you get past that and you kind of just realize, like, you don't have to be a master of it. This is what I was kind of telling people when the fight was happening. Like, you don't have to fully understand this. Like, I don't think that's integral to the enjoyment here. You could more or less kind of see just what's going on. I mean, if you don't know, like, the nuanced aspect of it, I don't think that takes away from the enjoyment here, because it's just like he activates his domain, and he does some gambling stuff, and then he gets essentially infinite cursed energy, and he's just super powerful as a result of it. Like, that's just the core of it here. So, and that's another way that he evens out with Kashimo, because Kashimo is a super beast. He's easily one of the strongest sorcerers we've seen so far, and the fact that Hikari can become can just obtain infinite cursed energy, therefore perpetual reverse curse technique, so he can get maimed, he can get killed multiple times and just keep coming back. And it's just so much fun seeing that, because like the stakes are still high, but it's just, we're kind of just alleviating them for a little bit just so we can just have fun with this character, because otherwise Kashimo would have killed him.
You know what? Now that you bring it up, like his domain expansion, I was just thinking about his the way his domain works, the private pure love train thing. The thing to me is that this is gonna be so fun when it gets animated. I mean, obviously the fight itself in the manga is really fun, as you said, but like, while it's just these two characters going at it, it's raw. They're just going so hard. There's gonna be like chibi anime love song playing in the background because of Hakuri's domain. I think it's just so funny. Like, when I was reading the fights, I was just thinking like the song playing in my head while these characters are just like punching each other, going at it hard, but then there's like love music playing in the background. So honestly, like, yeah, it's my second favorite fight for a reason. Everything about it is just awesome.
Bro, I was thinking the same exact thing. because like it tells you, like, when Hikari hits the jackpot and he's in infinite cursed energy mode, the song is playing, and like even Kashimo is aware of it. He's like, what the hell's going on? What is that? So, and I was thinking, like, what is this going to be like in the anime? Like, is the sound going to completely take over the entire soundtrack here, and it's going to be playing in the background, like fully turned up the volume, or is it going to be subtle, like it's kind of just emanating from Hikari? But either way, it's just funny because it's also the contrast to Hikari. He's like this big tough guy, Bancho archetype, but then he's likes romance manga and like these gacha game, or not gacha, these not pachinko. I think that's also an issue here. It keeps saying that it's like pachinko, but it's not. It's patchy slot.
Oh, honestly, yeah. What? That's so much more fitting. Patchy slots, not pachinko.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why they say it. Maybe because it's easier to understand, because patchy slots aren't like a thing outside of Japan, as far as I know.
Yeah.
And that's another reason why everybody's so confused as to what's going on here, because no one knows what patchy slot is. And even in itself, just knowing what a patchy slot is, it's kind of difficult too, because there's all kind of rules to it, even more so than what is presented with Hikari's domain. But I also like the conclusion to it. Because this, similar to Yuji versus Higuruma, it's not like what you would expect, I guess. It's kind of like a draw, I suppose, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of the way that it should be, because both of these characters kind of need to come across strong. And I don't mean like strong, like powerful wise. I mean just strong as who they are. And either of them taking a loss here would probably have weakened them going further, because there is going to be a lot more with these characters. Like, obviously this isn't the end. It was more so like a true introduction to them, if anything. Even though we saw Hikari, like, 40 chapters before this or whatever, we still didn't really understand what he was doing. We didn't really know anything about him aside from just like, what he represented to the other characters. But same thing goes for Kashimo. So now this was like a great introduction for both of them. And I remember going through this chapter, or these chapters on a weekly basis, like, God, I hope they just become friends at the end and they just team up. I think like that's the perfect outcome. And then it happened. And I was like, okay, this is it. This is like seals the deal. This is easily one of the best fights.
So, my other fight is not only one of my favorites, but I'd say it's pretty underrated, and it's also another Culling Game fight. It's Megumi versus Reggie. So I remember like seeing this poll. Essentially, it was like this poll of the best Culling Game fights so far, and Megumi versus Reggie got like the lowest votes. Now, granted, all the Culling Game fights have been top tier, so I guess it's kind of hard to thoroughly pick a favorite amongst all of them being so great, as we just talked about the Yuji versus Higuruma fight. But with that being said, I want to give some appreciation to the Megumi versus Reggie fight, because honestly, I feel like it was amazing. It's debatably the most strategical and tactical fight that we've seen in the series so far. I mean, when Megumi laid his domain expansion inside a gymnasium, because he knew that even if his domain was incomplete, it would still be effective if he went into a large enclosed space. So, the fact that he could turn that into his advantage, that was really nice to see. I also really like Reggie as Megumi's opponent. I mean, Reggie isn't like, great as Higuruma, or I guess the other characters like Kashimo and Ishigori, but his receipt curse technique is so fun and entertaining, especially when he had that like receipt of a 5-star luxury hotel. Like, he was like tired from this fight with Megumi, but then when he spawned that receipt, it would refresh Reggie's body as if he just relaxed at that 5-star luxury hotel. So, yeah, I don't know. I thought that was really cool. And in general, I feel like both their curse techniques, the 10 shadows and his receipts, it's so versatile and fun to use, where, having these two characters clash, it'll just automatically create this very back and forth momentum, similar to Hakuei versus Kashima, where that was very back and forth between the two fighters. So yeah, I feel like in this fight, it was constant moments of just one trying to overtop the other. The choreography was also really nice. Overall, I'd say this is easily Megumi's best fight in the series.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely his best fight. And I'm not really sure why it's underrated, because I think it's awesome too. But I really do like the way that he utilizes the receipts, because like, you know, he starts off small with like knives, freaking flower pots, and like then it goes to like trucks and cars, and then a freaking house. He drops a house on Megumi at the end. The conclusion I like too, because it's like you think that it's going to end, I guess, at some point before this, but then, you know, he kind of just pulls Reggie down into the water, and he eventually is able to get out of it. And then just suddenly he just gets, you know, a hunk of him bitten out by the divine dog. Like I like unexpected conclusions like that, because when I remember reading it and I was like, where is this going? Because like the fight felt like it should have probably ended at that moment. And then Reggie gets like his own little boost of, I don't know, MC morale, and he comes back from what you think the ending was. And then it's just nope, divine dog. It was kind of actually there, and it's over at that point. And you were saying that Reggie's not necessarily the best opponent or just character in the Culling game, maybe not as interesting or as well developed as the other characters. And, you know, that's somewhat true, but I don't think he necessarily has to be, because like not every character can be that awesome, well-developed one, especially one that's going to die here. But I did like him. I thought he was cool. I thought he had a fitting ending. And the way that he's just so nonchalant about things, like at the end, he's just like, I'm just a spectator. I'm not even close to Kenjaku. So I do agree that it is pretty great, and I think pretty easily Megumi's best fight. Because now that I think about it, he hasn't really had too many big extended fights like this. Right?
Yeah. When I said, like, yeah, this is easily Megumi's best fight, I was thinking about it, I was like, yeah, like, Megumi hasn't really gotten big, major fights. Like, a fight I can think of other than this fight would probably be, like, a 1v1. It would probably be, like, in the anime, like, back in Season 1 when he versed that, like, bridge curse.
Yeah, the finger bearer, or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
Yeah, the finger bearer, and I guess kind of like his fight against Toji, kind of.
Oh, yeah.
But this is, it really shows Megumi's versatility, why he's different in his own way, which I really enjoy, because like he's not just like, you know, use curse techniques and jujitsu and stuff. Like he uses like hand-to-hand a lot. He uses weapons and stuff. And it also shows, like, you know, like what you were saying with him being a tactician, the way that he utilizes the incomplete Chimera Shadow Garden. He knows where he is, and he uses that to his advantage, and I really like that.
I liked how because his domain was incomplete, when Reggie tried to use Hollow Wicker Basket, which is like a variation to Simple Domain, it didn't end up working because since his domain is incomplete, it acts more of an extension to his curse techniques, and Simple Domain and Hollow Wicker Basket doesn't negate curse techniques, so I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah, he winds up getting captured by the frogs.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was pretty much it for this one, guys. Be sure to check out the TheFakeWeeb's channel. He also does reviews on Jujutsu Kaisen chapters every week, so give him a subscribe if you haven't already. And if you liked the video, please give it a like, and have a great day.